Hello, thanks very much for joining us for Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Now, today we are speaking to the European Commissioner in charge of innovation, research, culture, education and youth matters, Mariya Gabriel, who joins us from Sofia in her home country of Bulgaria. Mariya Gabriel, welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we have a great many things to talk about this week. First of all, though, I would like to talk about some sad news. We learned this week of the death of the sitting President of the European Parliament, David Sassoli. I know you and many of your colleagues at the European Commission have been paying tribute to him. I wanted to share with you and our viewers part of Mr. Sassoli's Christmas message that he published on Twitter at the end of December. Let's just take a look at that now.
Per questo voglio dirvi buone feste, buon anno, buon Natale. Il periodo del Natale è il periodo della nascita della speranza e la speranza siamo noi quando non chiudiamo gli occhi davanti a chi ha bisogno, quando non alziamo muri ai nostri confini, quando combattiamo contro tutte le ingiustizie. Auguri a noi, auguri alla nostra speranza.
A message of hope from David Sassoli, who passed away earlier this week. Mariya Gabriel, on Twitter, you described David Sassoli as a leader committed to the European project and a friend of culture.
Yeah, we lost a real European leader. We lost a person that is an example what that means to join words and actions. And I think that for me personally, it's really very sad news that we lost a great friend of European culture, because he said cultural heritage strengthens our humanity. And that's exactly that we are talking here, not only about our own European culture, but we are talking about us as society, the human values. And I think that that will be a great responsibility for all of us now to continue his actions and his initiative. Definitely, he will stay an important part of the European history.
And members of the European Parliament and European leaders paying tribute to David Sassoli through the days to come as well. Mariya Gabriel, let's move on with some other news in Europe this week that took many people here by surprise at the end of last week. A massive cyber attack on government websites of the EU's ally, Ukraine. Now, at the time of recording this interview, it's not clear who was behind this, but it does come at a time of heightened tensions between Kiev and Moscow. As former digital commissioner for the EU, your reaction?
Well, first of all, the thing that we have not to be surprised, because cyber attacks are evolving very rapidly together with new technologies. They are more and more complex, and that's why what is important is to continue to work together as European Union. Remember, only the last 2-3 years, we managed to have a cybersecurity agency, we have a cybersecurity competence center, but it's true that our member states should reinforce their confidence to trust each other much more and to identify really common initiatives and common actions. And that's why it's very promising what our President von der Leyen said, that during this commission we'll finalize the Cybersecurity Act. So that means, again, that we should not be surprised, but we have to be ready to act. And that means more coordination and more joint actions between member states.
Okay, I'd like to talk about an issue that's part of your direct portfolio. Cultural institutions have been very hard hit during the almost 2 years of pandemic, and those hard times not over yet. Just to give a snapshot of the impact, 7,000 performing arts events were cancelled in Italy alone in February and March 2020, when museums were temporarily closed. Just a quarter of them here in Europe were able to provide any kind of digital content. Mariya Gabriel, the European Commission just announced it's adding 100 million euros to your Creative Europe budget. What are you aiming to achieve with this money? Altogether, the budget is 385 million euros, which is less than €1 per EU citizen.
Well, for sure, what we would like to see is to be adequate with the needs of our creators and artists, and that's why I think that this budget is very, very needed. But I must say that when we talk about Creative Europe program, it's first good signal that actually for 22 we have 385 million euros, but the entire budget of the program is 2.4 billion euros. That means 60% of increase in comparison with the previous period. And what I would like to say is that definitely that is not enough. And that's why my plea is to our authors and creators to pay attention to other instruments too that are now at their disposal. And that's something new. It's not only about Creative Europe program. Example, in Horizon Europe program, for the first time, we'll have a cluster dedicated on culture and creativity. And the budget is 2.1 billion. With the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, we have created a new community of innovation and in communication on cultural and creative industries. But that means that when we talk about culture, we talk about cultural heritage. And this time it's important to build bridges and synergies with research, with innovation, with climate. Let's take the example of the new European Bauhaus.
Well, speaking about some of those cultural links around Europe, France 24's Europe team has been looking at some of those. We can show you and our viewers a report, in fact, that takes a little bit of Brittany from France, hundreds of kilometres to the east to Poland. Isabelle Romero and Luke Brown went to have a look.
The heart of Poznan echoes with the peal of bells and Celtic music from western France. Breton singer Annie Ebrel is here for a short residency at the Dom Bretagne, the House of Brittany. She's rehearsing with Polish folk singer Monika Kusz. They're working on songs that relate to women's experiences from each of their traditional repertoires.
We've tried to establish bridges between the two traditions.
Personally, I particularly appreciate the fact that in Breton culture, the songs are accompanied by dance. It's the foundation of Breton dancing, and I think that's something that's missing from Polish music.
Those strong ties to Brittany date back to the 1980s. Following news of the imposition of martial law in Poland in 1981, the influential regional newspaper Ouest de France organised humanitarian convoys sending clothes and donations from readers. That wave of solidarity continued following the end of communism and beyond.
At the beginning, every day was incredibly exciting. At the time, 10,000 schoolchildren from our region went to visit Brittany and stay with families so they could learn about French schools and make French pen pals.
The 3 decades-long exchange has inspired countless concerts and conferences. The Dom Bretagne survives thanks to its members and funding from the regional government. And it relies on financing from the EU's Erasmus educational programme, but those funds have dried up during the pandemic, meaning its future will depend on the EU reasserting its support for cultural activities.
Mariya Gabriel, the institution we saw there in our report, getting funding in part actually from the Erasmus programme, which also comes under your portfolio. Perhaps an acknowledgement that EU funding can be a bit hard to identify sometimes where people can get money from, how they access it.
Well, first of all, I must say that even with Erasmus Plus, we have a very good news because we managed to double the budget, 28 billion euros for the period 21-27. And yes, that means much more opportunities for cultural exchanges like this one. One important thing, because I know that for our artists, sometimes is demanding so much time to look what are the different instruments, the source of funding, and it's very difficult because don't forget 95% of people engaged in the sector are self-employed, independent, and they don't have this time all the time for this. So that's why we created Culture EU. It's our unique platform where in only 3 clicks they can find 75 sources of funding for culture. First time ever, we centralized and we have mapped the different sources of funding for culture in Europe. And I hope very much that that will be very useful for them, because on this platform, they can see what's happened, where, and how to build networks, what is the different resources, and how to use the opportunities that we have finally at European level.
Just a word about some news from your home country, Bulgaria, where you are right now, of course. It's gone through a long period of political uncertainty. It's currently the least vaccinated state in the EU. And we know that the European Commission really wants to see at least 70% of people in every country vaccinated. Around 3,000 protesters tried to storm Parliament in Sofia, opposed to vaccinations and vaccine passes. Do you see stability returning to Bulgaria and, crucially, higher levels of vaccination as the Commission wants?
For sure, we need this stability, because what we have seen during 1 year is that where there is no stability, there is no predictability. Yes, that's a result. The low level of vaccination, the need of our companies and health system and teachers for more support, the resilience and recovery facility plans, which is not adopted yet for Bulgaria. So I think that what is really important is now to be more united on important topics like vaccination, like recovery, and to be in a dialogue with all the different parts of the society, because there is maybe loss of trust, of confidence, but with opposition, with confrontation, you can't overcome these obstacles. And I think that now that's the most important thing, to continue in this direction with a lot of dialogue, but with very firm positions, to be responsible between each other. That is the vaccination, and responsible within the European Union by working together with the member states and by putting on the top of the agenda topics that are important for Bulgaria and for Europe.
Mariya Gabriel, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for being with us. Do stay tuned to Talking Europe, part 2 coming up in a couple of minutes' time.